say in the UK, in England, or whatever we coach all over the world, that, you know, for goalkeepers, even though that they train hard, they should train hard, etc. You know, most goalkeepers don't make a decision whether they want to make a career out of goalkeeping until they're like 13, 14 years of age anyway. You know, so up until that period, parents should only be making sure that it's fun. There's no pressure on their child. And any coach that obviously can potentially damage their mindset, we need to get them away as fast as possible.
And, you know, honestly, the best, we say this all the time here, Mike, in the sense of like, okay, like when we'd have to recruit goalkeepers, okay, great. When we go to the games, we go to tournaments, we watch, they're on the best ECNL team in the state and everything like that. And I didn't see you catch a ball. I didn't see the ball come near you. I haven't seen anything. Like we always say, you have to show up for warm-ups for certain clubs so you can actually see the goalkeeper train, because you don't see him play. So being on the number one team while you're developing as a goalkeeper might not be the best thing for you to develop either. You need to see the game. You need to see action. You need to play. So standing back there, fiddling with your gloves for 90 minutes isn't going to make you the best goalkeeper either.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a great point. So let's now like kind of verve kind of the topic into like finding the right goalkeeper coach for your child. So let's say you found the right club and you're looking for some supplemental training, Ray. And I know you're very passionate about this in regards to the fact that like, I don't want to say that there's nefarious, situations going on with clubs in regards to, goalkeeper coaching, but obviously the goalkeeper coach is there to provide service for the club, to develop goalkeepers for the club to be successful and move on to the first team. It's not about the development of your goalkeeper for themselves. So that's why you've been always so passionate about goalkeepers looking for a little bit of outside tutelage as well too, right?
100%. And I've got one word in the moment that can help parents find the correct goalkeeping coach. And I'm going to touch on something what Saskia said before as well. Where it's like, you get these goalkeeping coaches, because I'm not saying that goalkeeping coaches in their own independent businesses, I'm not saying that they're all good, by the way. Like anything in life, guys, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. But like what Saskia was saying before, if you might have a goalkeeping coach who's amazing at marketing, but they don't know how to coach goalkeepers. And again, something I want to touch what Saskia said as well before. You get these goalkeeping coaches, guys, that they're not coaches, they're trainers, and they'll have that much apparatus at the training sessions. They have dummies, hurdles, and like the keepers driving over hurdles.
And it looks great. It looks interesting.
And the children will come off and go, "Wow, that's amazing." And mums and dads will go, "Wow, that must be fantastic." But the keepers are learning nothing.
They didn't learn anything. You're just reconditioning bad habits because you're a trainer, you're not a coach, you're not breaking things down, teaching them their balances off, their set positions off, or anything. You're just making like an obstacle course for the kid to go through for 90 minutes, for an hour.
and I think that's a lot of goalkeeping coaches who deep down know that they might not necessarily have the skills to develop the keepers, and it's a way of hiding that as well. But another massive problem as well, guys, very quickly, and the reason why unfortunately parents sometimes pick the wrong goalkeeping coach is that they're either recommended by someone, another parent who doesn't understand goalkeeping, or unfortunately, and I think I mentioned this to you once before, Michael, unfortunately I've seen this so many times, and I can't understand why a fellow goalkeeping coach could do this to a child, where if a goalkeeper is at a club and that goalkeeper says to that club or the club goalkeeping coach, "I've got an opportunity to go and get some independent goalkeeping coaching." I've heard this hundreds of times, guys, sadly. The goalkeeping coach or the club has said, "If you go to that independent goalkeeping coach, we're going to cut you from the team." Now, how adults can stop a child developing like that is beyond words, to be honest with you. I just don't understand why. Is it financial why they're doing it? Is it because they don't, I think a part of it's financial. I think
or there's a certain amount of like blowback from that. Like they say they're good. You see it happen all the time where they do get the outside coaching and stuff. And now all of a sudden you're not starting. Now all of a sudden you're sitting on the bench because you didn't pay the goalkeeper coach. It's part of the club to coach you on the side. Right. Yeah. You went somewhere else and now you've fallen out of favor somehow, and that's ridiculous. It's It's not cool.
On the opposite end, I think, what's happened, Ray, is that there's been a lot of bad actors out there. So a lot of, young players have gone to work with independent goalkeeper coaches that have relationships with other clubs. And they essentially start bad mouthing the club that they're with and say, oh, you need to go to blah, blah, blah. So as young goalkeeper coaches, you need to understand,
you have to be independent.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if you're going to start, you're going to have your own company in a sense, that company's got to be independent. You're there to train and to educate the keeper as the keeper, not because you're filtering them to a certain club. You're not bad mouthing another club. Don't bad mouth another coach. Just teach,
Honestly, guys, sorry. I was saying the amount of times that just for keepers could have been associated with professional clubs all over the world. And it would have been sort of good for J4K, for just for keepers, but we said, no, sorry. Like you said there, Saskia, we're independent, because as soon as you start teaming up with other people, you lose that independency. And we're like, no, we're here for the goalkeepers, or we're here for the parents of the goalkeepers. That's it. We don't want to get involved in any politics. We're here just to coach. But I've just got one very quickly, Michael, one word that will help parents decide whether, it will help them pick the right goalkeeping coach. And it's just literally results. Doesn't matter what people say, hey, I did this in my other country. I was international. I've got all the best qualifications in the world. Like you said before, Sasha, these guys, as I say, they could be good marketers. All parents have got to look at is they just go, okay, great. Okay. What's your results? What proven results have you got for your students? And if you can look at a goalkeeping coach.
And that's why I said, look at Rutgers, look at their proven results and their lineage of where their goalkeepers are going. Like they do go pro.
Yo, what's up, dude?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Are you learning? You're learning about the dark underbelly of parents and professional goalkeeper coaching out there for youth players.
I've heard it all. I've seen it all. So it's nothing new. I'm listening to this going, yeah, been there, done that.
I love it, man. It's so funny how I was just listening to that. And even though I was at the podcast last week, sometimes I'm kind of I'm writing comments or I'm, doing something, engineering wise or whatever. So I missed something. And it just made me think about the fact is I've heard that before. I've heard of clubs who are like, yeah, you're not allowed to look for goalkeeper coaching on the side. And it's that's the weirdest. It's like a school saying you can't find a tutor.
Yeah, no, I when I was still at Indy Fire, there was a kid that ended up coming over to us from the Columbus Crew, and they told him the same thing. The kid just wanted, there's like 4 or 5 kind of private guys over in Columbus, and they're all good, but the Crew told him no, you can't go outside of us and get extra training.
That's so weird.
It's weird, but again, I think it's it's not a confident. What's the word I'm looking for? They're scared, right? It's a confidence. It's a fake confidence. If you're good at what you do, and either they're going to train more with you, or if you don't offer it, they're going to go somewhere else. And if you're afraid you're going to lose your kid because he or she wants to better themselves. In Indy, I had the same, I had a similar situation where, yes, I worked for Indy Fire and that was the MLS Next team, but you have all these other clubs and they didn't do extra, right? They did the once or twice a week. And a lot of those kids came to my private stuff, but it wasn't like I'm trying to poach these kids. I ended up bringing one kid over just simply because he was so good, but he kind of brought it to me. I'm not sitting there going, oh, I'll take you from Indy Premier over to Indy Fire. You can't work that way.
No, you definitely.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up?
Oh man, we're just talking about how we were listening to the podcast from last week for the parents thing and about the clubs that won't let kids train with other goalkeeper coaches. And it was
that's ridiculous.
God. And Bushy was just sharing a story of how he had experienced that too. It's so weird, Bushy, because like when you're talking about a professional team, you're like, well, you would think that you would want to know if there's something that you're not doing right, because you're supposed to be the highest echelon there is. Like,
yeah, but I don't think it's not knowing if you do something right, but everybody, you have to get different perspectives, period.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the kid needs to get different. They're not going to be with you for life.
No.
No.
And you've got to get, like you said, Josh, you got to get different perspectives on things, because you're going to take information and techniques and styles from different people, and you're going to, some you'll bring and you'll keep in, and some you'll try and you'll be like, yeah, that doesn't work for me,
Right.
But if you're only trained one way, and there's no thought processes, there's no, well, let me try it this way, or like, it doesn't work. It's not cookie cutter. Like, you can't, goalkeepers aren't cookie cutters, and you can't train everybody the same way.
No, and the players have to be coachable as well. Like, if they move on to another team, they can't go in to a new goalkeeper coach and be like, well, my coach told me this way and that's the way it's done and everything. Yeah. You have to be able to kind of like figure out the best course for you, take a little bit here, take a little bit there, and become the best you can be.
Absolutely.
I swear to God, usually I just edit out the pre-roll, but this is really good stuff. I don't think I'm going to edit this out. I'm just going to keep this.
But I've had kids that have done that to me. I've had kids that have come back. I do their privates. They come back from their club and they're like, well, and they have they question something. They're like, well, my goalkeeper coach is telling me to do it this way. And then we'll sit down and we'll break it down. And we'll find like a middle ground of like maybe the way I've been training that person and the way they're being trained now. And because it's a gray area. So there's some things in what that coach is telling you that's proper as well. There's some things, well, everything that I'm telling you is proper. So, but let's find a middle ground.
but what it is, in all honesty, is, Tosh, you're secure enough in who you are, what you've done, and how you train goalkeepers. And that's, in all honesty, that's the bottom line, right? Because it doesn't have to be, and I don't think it is, I don't want to speak for you, but I know it's the same way with me, training here. Like, it's not goalkeeping according to Jon Busch, right? And it's not like, I'm going to give you thoughts, ideas, and whatever, and when I first got here, overseeing the academy, there's a gentleman who used to be with the academy and now just kind of does his private stuff, and a lot of our kids still train with him, and that's fine, but they were resistant to certain things that we're trying to teach them now, me and my staff. And it's funny because when I want to have these discussions, okay, what are you taught? What are they teaching you? Let's break it down. Let's look at both sides. Maybe that works better for you. Maybe. And, and one of the topics, we honestly were saying the same exact things using different words.
In a different way. Yeah. And exactly. I had the same experience. It was like, no, we're saying exact same thing. But it also comes from the coaches. Like you can find out if the other coach is that type of a coach that's just like, no, this is the way you do it.
Yeah.
And that should never be the conversation ever.
And that's what I was going, that goes back to my original point, right? Like, you're secure enough to be able to say, like, okay, let's talk about that. Maybe it is better for you to do it the other way. Right. And then unfortunately you get some people that aren't okay and aren't secure enough to be like, oh, okay, you know what? It's better for you to do it that way, even though it's not the way I'm suggesting. It works for you. It's simple. Perfect example is, the little, I don't know what you want to call it, spin on diving, right? When you're getting up for a rebound.
It's a great example.
I was never taught that.
And I think that was actually our conversation with Aiden. Right? Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Like, I was never taught that. Now I've got kids that do it all the time now. And again, it's still something I don't teach, but if it works for you and it gets you up quicker and it helps you, maybe in my mind, I don't think it's technically right, but I'm not going to try to change you if it's working for you.
Exactly. And like and I don't like, it's nothing, I'm from the same cloth you are. It's not what I was taught, but you know, I watched it, I experimented with it with him, and like under certain situations, it is good for him to do. It was good for him to do, as long as the spin got his body weight forward and he was like those little technical things, not just the spin itself. But again, you know, I'm open to it. I'm open to it. If it works, it works. Save the ball.
Exactly. Save the ball. Simple as that.
Save the ball.
All right, guys, I'm gonna do the intro right here. I'm probably just gonna edit this stuff into the actual podcast because it's so darn good. But I got to get the intro here. So here we go. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from West Hollywood, California. With me, with a 20-minute pre-roll podcast of their own, the one and only 99 World Cup winner, Saskia Weber, and former MLS goalkeeper of the year and Pittsburgh Riverhounds goalkeeper coach, the one and only Jon Busch, Bushy. You guys, I'm not going to lie, you guys could have just kept doing your own show. I could have gone and made lunch. Seriously.
Gift of gab, the gift of gab.
Absolutely, especially when you're on the same page.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the great things about that, Bushy, is, you know, sometimes, you know, we'll have guests on, you know, that we're not as familiar with, you know, they're newer friends to the podcast, and then we have, you know, veterans like yourself who've been on like 30 times, and it's like, you know what, just let it go, and just start talking, and something's gonna come out of it.
Take a reunion.
Yeah,
exactly.
The only thing I remember is Stan always warned me not to curse so much, so I'm really gonna try not to do so, guys. So.
Oh my gosh! Oh man, you know, speaking of reunions and everything like that, you know, Stan Anderson and Camp Shutout, obviously, you know, obviously they makes a lot of connections and stuff like that. You know, Bushy, I know you weren't able to obviously be at Camp Shutout this year, but you're always there in spirit and everything like that. And you know, everyone's got those HPGs, you know, as they're walking around on the fields and everything like that. And it just immediately just reminds me of the Jon Busch demos at Camp Shutouts. Just 18-year-olds and, you know, and 45-year-old Jon Busch out there doing the demos, man.
That was probably the last time. That was it.
That's what 18, but John, that's what 18-year-olds are for.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, actually, that's the funniest thing is that, Saskia, weren't you asked a few months ago if you wanted to go out there and get in the cage or something like that? It was like some sort of reality contest or something like that. They were looking for goalkeepers.
No, you're so off, but that's okay. But I get asked a lot, like, oh, especially like women's leagues on the weekends or co-ed leagues. I'm like, absolutely not. First of all, nobody plays defense. So I'm just gonna get my butt kicked, and I'm like, no, I don't have to do that anymore. Like,
I got bruised ribs last Thursday.
See,
I've got no interest
whatsoever.
Look, I love it. I love training goalkeepers. I have zero interest to ever play again. Now, if you got an old man pickup hockey league, I'm in. All right, but you want me to go play 7v7 soccer, jumping? No, thank you. I'm good. I've done my time.
I did the congressional game like 5 years ago in DC, and that was it. Yeah, it's like that was it. And like Kobe was there, and John Harkes, and everything. And like, you know, Harkes tried to score on me from kickoff from midfield, and I'm like, really? I'm like, you know, and I was all over the place. And I remember Kobe looked at me and was just like, "Are you getting paid for this?" And I'm like, no, but I there's no switch off for me. I can't come out here and avoid a tackle or like, you know, not like extend dive. I can't go for a 1v1. I can't not do that. I go, you can do that on the field. I can't not do that. Trust me, I had dislocated my shoulder. I had a big bag of ice on afterwards. I'm still having like PTSD from it. But I played well. I played great. So like that was it. Drop the mic. Bye-bye.
There you go. And then the next day you're going, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Bushy. Speaking of a competition, congratulations to you. For those people who aren't familiar out there, why don't you tell them a little bit about your Pittsburgh Riverhounds season? Because you guys, the most points in the league? Is that how you guys finished the regular season?
Yeah, there's one game to go in the regular season for everybody this weekend coming. But we this past weekend going down to Tampa, won 2-0, and that gave us, they call it the Players Shield in the USL. So not only did we win the East, we won the overall title for the entire league, which is it was quite special for this organization. They've won the East before; they've never won the overall title. So it was the first one, and it's a good place to do it. Tampa's a very good team. They were 3 points behind us going into the game. So if they win, it would have been all to play for this weekend. But it's quite nice too, because all the USL, reporters and all that, going into the season didn't even pick us to make the playoffs. So it was nice to kind of, stick one to them and show them that, Bob Lilly is Bob Lilly every single year. And the guy just wins. It just wins. It doesn't matter who's on the team. He always finds a way. And so that was that's our first trophy. And now it's, we've enjoyed that for a day or two. And now it's, we got to finish the season off in Detroit this weekend and then get ready for playoffs.
I will say one thing, Bushy. One thing I love about you being in the USL and working with a franchise like Pittsburgh and everything like that is that obviously a lot of those players they aspire to play at the highest level that they can possibly be, and obviously you played at the highest level, out there, and so for you to be working with them, and you're not speaking from concept, you're speaking from, hey, I've been there. I know what it takes to get to that level.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, working with Bob, I played for Bob 100 years ago. So he's old school. I love that style. We get on very, very well. We have a very good relationship. I knew what I was getting into here. He knew what he was getting from my side. But to be able to work with all these young men, and like you said, be able to say to them, not just with my words, but, have them understand, like, I did it. I did it for 5 years, grinding every single week, every single day, riding the buses like they are and things like that. I mean, we didn't have facilities like we have now. I mean, if you guys saw this facility, they've just opened last January. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. We've got our own place. We've got the academy upstairs. Like, it's proper. You feel like a proper football club here. But I think that's what makes it special is I've got 3 young goalkeepers here and I've been in their shoes. Mm-hmm. And so, when things are good or things are a little bit bumpy or a little bit inconsistent, I know what they're going through. I know how to speak with them. I know sometimes when they need that arm around them and when they need my foot up their ass, so that I think is something I can bring to the table for these young men simply because I've been there and I've done it. Yeah.
Saskia, one thing that I love about Bushy, obviously other than the fact that like he's trying so hard not to curse,
I already did.
Is that, a lot of these young goalkeepers, especially today, they think that, played on the U.S. men's national team, was MLS goalkeeper of the year. And so they assume, it must have all just been handed to him on a silver platter. But no, I mean, there's a lot of goalkeepers out there. I mean, we even talk about like, Fallon Tullis-Joyce, who's now at Manchester United. She had to start out, in the second division in France before even getting an opportunity to get on a bench in NWSL and everything. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just happen for every goalkeeper. They just automatically start off on a top tier team.
No, and especially for a goalkeeper, to be honest with you. Like with a field player, and we've talked about this a lot, with a field player, you can go in, you can be on the bench, you might get 15 minutes here, you might get 2 minutes there, but you can get played in. With goalkeepers, very rare. And so it's even more of a journey, and you have to find those other divisions. You have to go outside of your box and go outside of the country, or whatever it is you have to do to get your games in, to get your reps, and work at it, because goalkeepers do get better with age. And there is a cutoff, but they do get better somewhat. They do get better with age and experience, and you have to go get it, because you're not, at the end of the day, you're not getting it on the bench.
And I'm just thinking about, Bushy. I mean, you're number one, this year, White, he's what, 24 years?
Yeah,
24?
Jamal is 24.
Yeah,
but imagine if he was 24 and sitting on a bench for like LAFC, right? Yeah. And not playing on the second team, sitting on the bench. So game in, game out, game in, game out. Yes, you're training with the premier squad, but you're not playing. And so if I were a coach looking for a new goalkeeper, I might not touch my bench. I'm going to go look at somebody that has been playing consistently in another league and is played in and ready to go.
Yeah. And if you're 24 years old, Bushy, I mean, like, not to interrupt you or whatever, but like the thing is like, if you're playing in that type of an environment with other grown men who are more around your age versus playing in an MLS Next team with 16-year-olds, like, what's going to be more realistic to the next level that you want to get to?
Yeah. And you bring up a good point, and it was actually one of the points I was just about to mention is, it's how she said, like, if you got a 24-year-old sitting the bench for LAFC or Columbus Crew or whoever, right, and your number one goes down, he hasn't gotten that number two hasn't really gotten a lot of games. Maybe he's gotten a couple, because if you look at most MLS Next teams, they're playing a 17, 18, 19-year-old. They're playing the future kid, right? They're hoping he develops. So
To sell.
Yes.
To sell.
more to sell, most likely. Some maybe are developing, but they're playing the young kid. And so what games do you get in? All of a sudden something happens to your number one, is your number two truly ready to jump in game in and give it? It's not like a short-term injury, right? I'm talking more of a longer
season ending,
and that it's an interesting dynamic.
But you see that a lot across the board, where even if it's a season-ending injury, a club will go out. You might play a game or two, but a club might go out. They'll go out and find somebody.
100%.
Like, they'll go out and you'll be back on the bench.
Yeah.
And like I've even seen it in the NWSL, where it's like, well, you have this person and that person as your backups, but you'll see a team will go out to Europe, they'll go somewhere else, and they'll bring in a weathered goalkeeper just in case.
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. So I think it's, and I used to have these conversations with all the young goalkeepers, whether it was in Chicago or Columbus or San Jose. One of the ones I did it the most with was Evan Newton in San Jose, because he spent, I think it was 2 years with us, played a game and a half. And then, going into the off season before that third year, I basically said to him, like, you're at that point of your career. Like, if you don't go get games and you come back for another season and play maybe one exhibition, like, you're now losing your career, right? You're now at that age, at that moment, you're
like a dugout catcher.
100%. He went down, he dropped down, played in the USL, and ultimately owns every goalkeeping record now in the USL. He retired at the end of last year, but I remember getting, he was very hesitant about it at first. But I remember him calling me at the end of the season. I basically said to him, look, I don't mind you coming back. Like, we have a great time training, but you need to go, right? For your career, you need to go. And I remember him calling me after that first season going, basically, thank you for kicking me out of San Jose, because I forgot how much fun and how much I enjoyed actually playing.
Yeah.
And that's a big part, like you said earlier, that's a huge part of our development, as goalkeepers. Yes, it's good to be in a top quality training environment, but whether you're on the bench or you're in the stands every Saturday night is not doing anything for your development, and that's, so for, again,
And I'll tell you what, you get in that one game, and this is a reality of it, and you don't perform, they're going to move on.
Yeah,
because your entire job for that year has been to wait for that one moment, and it could be something totally out of your hands, but you come in and you underperform, they will move on immediately.
100%. Absolutely, 100%. So it's tough. You look at here, and Jamali and our number 2 Christian, our number 3 Jonathan, like, they understand what it means every Saturday to get 3 points. There is something on the line, and again, this isn't I'm not trying to knock MLS Next, but that is a developmental league. That is to get these young kids minutes and time, and either sell them or push them up, right? Our goal here, we want to develop because we have a younger squad. Our goal here is to win a trophy, period, plain and simple. So it's a different mindset.
Yeah. I want to move into the topic, because I think, this conversation in regards to, coming in or, dealing with adversity in regards to finding playing time and everything, I think really lends into the whole topic of applying resistance, into your sessions. Bushy, there's all sorts of different types of resistance. Obviously there's physical, tactical, technical, kind of what are your thoughts on that? And what do we mean by resistance in your mind?
Well, I think I know where you're going with it, because you've looked at some of my videos. I'm a big proponent of band resistance on certain days, plyos, that sort of thing. I'm big in that. I was as a player. I think there's an importance of it throughout the week, as long as you have your proper timeline in between games and that sort of thing. But yes, there's also, mental resistance and things like that as well. And the more we can put them in situations where they have to make decisions and they have to think, and they need to, I call it multitasking for goalkeeping, right? Because that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do in every game, whether we're organized and we're moving our line, we're moving our angles at the same time. And by the way, here comes a cross, or here comes a shot, and so all of this has to go together. And one of the key things for me is, because you've seen my sessions, I like to keep a lot simple. I know there's different thought processes, and, not saying mine's right and theirs is wrong, or vice versa. I think a lot about simplicity. Now, I do always ask the question, why do we do something? And I like to have answers for that, not just because, I thought of this while I was walking out to the field. I spend a lot of time during the week looking at my sessions, seeing what I like, seeing what we can tweak, but also relating it to my goalkeepers. Right here, you're looking at the kid actually working as a kid, Dom, just a local kid. I like to have 4. So Jamali's not here. This was yesterday. Jamali's with the national team. And you've got Christian and Jonathan. So Christian is on our left serve and Jonathan's on our right. Chrissy's a little guy like me, right? So a lot of my thought process when we brought him in from our combine and we signed him was, he's a good shot stopper. He's good coming off his line, dealing with 1v1s and through balls. But he wasn't great dealing with crosses, and Bob is, and I am as well. We want an active goalkeeper. We want an active goalkeeper coming off your line. So we've put a lot of time into Chris in training, but also with our strength and conditioning coaches, because I think a lot of that, and again, I pick things from my time and my playing career, and Chris, like I said, Chris is very similar to me. So I pick a lot of what I thought worked for me. And our weight room's right beside our locker room. So I'm in there all the time talking to those guys. And, the buy-in that Chris has, at first he was a little bit resistant in the gym. But once we got him buying in, just seeing the physical difference that obviously started in the weight room, and now I'm seeing it on the field, knowing what we need out of him, right? To be successful for us, the Riverhounds, and to be a successful goalkeeper for Bob, because I know what Bob expects out of his goalkeepers.
Just really quickly on that, Bushy, and by the way, that we actually are there's a difference sometimes between people talking and someone saying something, and the thing I love about you, Bushy, is that every single time you're saying something, it's relevant to where the direction we're trying to go. So like Saskia, you obviously played at the highest of levels, and you were very much similar to Bushy in regards to the fact that like how important off the field maintenance was in order to get what the coach wanted out of you, on the field. So I kind of wanted to throw that in.
No, absolutely. And I think what coaches out there even nowadays need to realize is you get gym work, strength and conditioning, resistance training, and they send their goalkeepers in with the team. And they're like, okay, everybody go with your physio, and everybody's doing this routine. And it's not necessary. It's not helping the goalkeeper, because it's a totally different action. It's totally different resistance. It's totally different work. And so even when I was at UCLA, like I went to the strength and conditioning coach and said, you need to set up a totally different program. And he actually was a goalkeeper. So I was like, you need to set up a totally different program for the keepers. Like they come in here, they do their thing, and the field players do their. And obviously some things cross over, but you can't just say, okay, go, because, and yeah, you're right. But back in the day for me, I had to go find it, Mike. And I found it in all different places, whether it was working with the track coach on my explosiveness, working at Rutgers, I had a great strength and conditioning coach in Tom Scott. And it was ahead of his time with band work, with everything. And so, but you have to make sure what you're doing off the field is goalkeeper oriented.
Yeah. Speaking of strength and conditioning work, Bushy, I just saw a guy carrying a goal across the field, and that is some solid strength and conditioning work for goalkeepers right over there, just carrying those goals across the field.
Oh my
goodness.
Oh man. I haven't had lunch yet because I'm a little loopy right now. Bushy, I want to talk about the mental aspect about it, because I think, a lot of the times, when we're doing any sort of plyo work or resistance work like that, there's a mental aspect to it in regards to being able to deal with that type of adversity. Why don't you kind of elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, at this level that we're watching now, at the end of the day, this is a business. That's how she'll tell you as well, right? Like, this is a business. You're getting paid to do this, So for me, it's, you better be mentally tough, and you better, especially for Bob Lilly, you better want to grind, and you better enjoy. Like, I look at this and I love this stuff during the week. I love these days. There's something wrong with me. There really is, but
I love them too.
And we're just built differently. Goalkeepers are just different, but I think for me, one of the points I really try to stress with these young goalkeepers that want to turn pro, everybody wants to be a pro, right? Everybody wants. I had this conversation earlier today with somebody. Everybody wants to be a pro until they realize what it actually takes to be a pro, and not just a pro, but to be a good pro. And then it's you got to put that time in, whether it's in the gym, on the field, doing your recovery, doing your, strength and condition, talking to your sports psychologist. All of this is now part of your day-to-day.
It's your job.
It is your job. And I think sometimes when you get these youngsters coming out of college, that are good players. I don't, I don't want to say that I don't think they understand, what it takes, but I don't think they understand because they're dealing with a shorter amount of time in a college season. They're dealing with a spring that, is fun. And it's okay, well, we're going through a 10 to 10 and a half month season right now, and it's 6 days a week. How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to, how are you going to deal with it when you're in a slump? How are you going to deal with it when you're banged up? How are you going to deal with it, if your girlfriend's mad at you or whatever? How are you going to deal with all that other stuff and be able to say, hey, I still got to get on that field and put it in today? And so the mental side of it is very important. And I've had to learn how to deal with that as a coach now, because it is a different time than I think when we came up, so again, sometimes it's an arm around them and a nice little chat during water. And sometimes it's a kick up the backside, when I think that they can push a little bit harder. But if you don't hold them accountable and you don't hold them to that high standard day in and day out, you're not going to get the results that ultimately you need in this business, because this is a results-oriented business. You don't win games, you don't win championships, you get fired.
Yeah. I think you can see it in college players. Like, you could see the ones that got it. And because like there were some that were laying on the beach all summer, and there's some that knew that they had to train and understood recovery and mental recovery, and you're out of school and stuff, but also understood, look, I want to go to the next level. I have my summer workout or my winter workout. I have my regimen. But am I doing it? And am I really putting it in? And it's so obvious, everybody out there, to a coach when you come back in on that level that you haven't been doing it. And I don't want to spend the first 2 weeks of preseason getting you to where you should have been in walking in the door. And that translates into being pro. You're out there for 6-7 months. And so when you have those other months off, what are you doing? Like, do I have to start at the beginning of that again? Or are you continuing to work on your art and to work on your craft so that you get to that next level?
But Bushy, I got a question, just kind of on the technical here for the bands that you've got against the goal right there, because it seems to be becoming a thing that I'm seeing a lot of at the highest of levels. I don't see it as much in the youth level, but I definitely seeing it at the highest of levels. What is the benefit of these in a session like this?
So this is our plyo / band work day, where it's all resistance, right? So it's all just, you can see it there. You can't completely dive full out when you have the band on. But the reason the why of it all, right? I want them to have resistance, because at the end we'll take the band off and we'll just do a couple rounds of just regular shots. And now he feels quicker, he feels sharper, he's more explosive. So that's the physical kind of side of this, what I'm looking for. The other thing I'm looking at this too, I want to make sure, and on the kind of the wider two shots, even though they're central, the wider two central shots, is I'm pulling them out. So that gives them more resistance, but it also, I want them thinking, if this is a shot in a game, I don't want them sitting deep. I want them challenging the shot. So I'm also having them think about their angles. And then this first round is I'm hitting volleys. I'm making them drop back in. So maybe they've come out, they've dealt with a shot. It's a reaction save. The second ball's there. Now they feel like they need to drop back in. So I'm moving their angle deeper. And now I want to work for this round. I'm hitting volleys high above, not wide necessarily, but higher above their head. So it's that quick just reaction with a hand to get it over the crossbar, because that's something that as we started this season, I was noticing from our goalkeepers, we were a little bit slow with that, because again, sometimes it's a technical thing where they think they need to dive. And for me, again, being a smaller guy, it wasn't necessarily I'm diving for it. It's almost like a setter in volleyball where I just have to get my arms and hands behind the ball as quick as I can. And I'm basically setting it over the crossbar. And if the rest of my body eventually follows, that's okay. So there's a whole, even though, you think, well, he's just working on resistance because of the band. Yes, but then there's also specifics why I'm pulling them out, why I'm dropping them back, that sort of thing within the resistance work. I'm sorry. Sorry for the VO. The VO has a mind of its own. It just moves and I don't know why it does this. So who knows?
Well, AI is taking over everything. So that's a whole other conversation. In fact, I'm not even here right now. This is just an avatar. That's why it seems a little off. It's an AI version of me. It's just I just had ChatGPT create me. Anyway, Susk, I want to bring up what Bushy just said there in regards to trends I was noticing in the matches. And that's why I'm starting to focus, because I think that's really, really important. First off, I've never actually heard of hitting the volleys above the players right there. That's something that now I'm starting to think, I'm like, oh, I need to start adding that into my sessions, because it is realistic to the game, especially from a close range roof and that sort of thing. How important is it for you that even on a plyo day, that it's still based on trends that you're seeing during the matches?
Who are you asking?
I'm asking you, Susk.
Oh, well, I mean, that's the genius about this, right? Is that it's a plyo day, but there's realism in it, right? So you're getting the best of both worlds. You're not just over in a corner doing band work and walking slow, doing shuffles, side shuffles, a band in between your quads and stuff like that. You're actually implementing this into training and into the reality of the game, which is where you're going to get the most out of it. Because you can't replicate as much off the field movement as you do on the field, right? So you can try, but how is your body moving in the goal? Every ball is different, every angle's different, everything's different, and so it's hard to replicate that in a stagnant situation. Where here, if you can get both done, this is the best situation to do it in.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you just said right there. And then, Bushy, I can't tell you how many times I see compartmentalization with young goalkeeper coaches, and I was a victim of this, throughout my career as well too, and maybe still am, where I think, oh, today's focus is X, so I'm doing X. And the more and more I've kind of progressed as a coach, the more and more I've started realizing that, well, the game is possession to out of possession. Mm-hmm. If I'm just focusing on one single area, I'm not really training the goalkeeper and coaching them how to play in the game. I'm coaching them on how to do a specific action, and that's it.
Yeah, but I think also what's important is the why here. All right. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have so many goalkeeper coaches that look at this and they say, oh, okay, I'm going to get some bands and attach them to the goal and have at it. But why? You have to understand as a coach, so your players understand what you're getting out of it and the why. Like, why did you set up an entire obstacle course in the goal? What's the end game of that? What actually is the action, and what are you trying to highlight and enhance? And if it's just to set up an obstacle course, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. You just brought up a really good point, Saskia. And Bushy, I can't tell you how many, and I'm not going to name names or whatever, but how many times I'll see, something like this on a social media post or whatever. And I go, oh, this is because that person is sponsored by this certain piece of equipment. And this is just basically an infomercial for that piece of equipment. It's not giving any context on why they're doing this. And that's why it's so important whenever you share anything if it's truly for educational value, to mm-hmm. truly explain why this is here.
Yeah. No, again, there's no ever, I'm right and they're wrong, or vice versa, right? There's so many ways to get what you need accomplished. But again, she just said, what's your why? What's your reasoning, right? If I want to be one dimensional and I want, if it's plyo day, I can set up hurdles and just have them jump, but again, what am I accomplishing there? They can do that in the off season in the gym, right? How can I now incorporate the goalkeeping part of it, right? So you're killing two birds with one stone kind of thing, and now I'm making them think about what they're going to do on a day-to-day basis and what what their job entails. And so, with sprinkling out, here I'm pulling them out first. Now I'm hitting a half volley anywhere in and around their body. Then I'm dropping them, right? So I'm pulling them high. Now I'm dropping them back. Who let that guy in, by the way? Unbelievable. You talk about infomercials. That guy's like a used car salesman.
I'm pretty sure I know how many people are going to Camp Shutout next year. Every day there's a different tally.
Oh, it's ridiculous. And then, whatever T-shirt or sweatshirt he finds at the Adidas outlet, like that's the latest and greatest for that week till he's sold out. So I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Oh my
gosh. No, seriously, there has to be a why. And in each session, why are you doing certain things? What each goalkeeper needs, right? You have an overall general of what they need. And then specifically, what does Jamali need? What does Jonathan need? What does Christian need, on a day-to-day basis? Also, why am I doing things at certain points during the week? Monday is kind of our welcome back day, right? So it's a lot of handling, but, the intensity's okay, right? Tuesday's a heavier workload day. Wednesday, for instance, today, the team has optional day. I don't let the goalkeepers have optional day. They're always in, but it's more of, hey, you're not going to hit the ground much today. You're dealing with crosses and distribution, a little bit lighter on your body. But we need to get, we still need to get something out of it. Thursday is now, we get into Thursdays and now we're starting to talk about our opponent and what we're going to bring to the table, come this weekend. And so we'll get into shots, we'll get into more ball movement, whether it's, distribution played to me, I play wide, whatever it's going to be, right? We're making it a little bit more dynamic, a little bit dropping the workload. The workload's still at a decent level, but dropping it down because we're getting later in the week. And now it's getting more specific toward what we're going to see on that weekend. I
want to talk about this,
this is perfect. Yeah, this is a good one, Mike.
Yeah. No, this is the one where you start incorporating the field players, right?
This was a Wednesday again. So I asked a couple of guys who are already out training, like if I could use them. So I think it was before, if I remember correctly, San Antonio. We had 2 weeks in a row where we were facing teams that were playing very direct, and they whipped a lot in. And we like to play a high line regardless of who we're playing. So my thought process here was, with the first little pass, is having our goalkeeper starting on his front foot, right? I want his first thought, can I come get this ball over the top, whether it's in the box or outside the box, right? So without having him go too far, right, and having to cover 15, 20 yards, it'll just pull him out a bit. And now at the kind of bottom of the screen, you'll see little Robbie there. He's one of our midfielders. So when the ball's played in Jamali, Robbie's going to check somewhere, right? He's just going to pop out in one direction. So now Jamali is finding him with that pass. Robbie now has 2 touches. We've got 4 guys wide, 2 deep and 2 higher, where he can play any of them, right? They have 2 touches now to serve in. All right. The second ball would be played back to Christian, who's the goalkeeper up top. Actually, that might be Dom. And then we're playing out the other side. So he's going to get 2 crosses kind of within one set.
Yeah. I want to bring this up, Saskia, because this is a conversation, you always have, and we're talking about obviously resistance, and like, you can't really create that mental resistance of dealing with actual live crosses with actual live people. And I think, this is a conversation we always have, Saskia, is like for young goalkeeper coaches out there, is that ask your team for players. If they're there, they've got a lot of guys, like that you can use them.
No, absolutely. And whether when we were at UCLA, a lot of times it would be, we'd have certain days where we would have the players. So I'd have the forwards along with Sam and I'd have the keepers and we'd structure things around that. But on days that technically I didn't, like, it was like, who's coming back from rehab? Who's ready to strike a ball? Like, who can we use? There's so many players. Like, who can I use? So I would always see who I could grab, because that realism is paramount, and even if it's, instead of using a blow up doll, you have enough players that you can use live people. It makes a difference. If you have that ability, and if you have that option, do it. Absolutely do it.
Yeah. And I think, obviously Busch.
Also, I don't want to strike all those balls.
but also, I mean, no disrespect to the goalkeeper union out there, but there's a huge difference between somebody that day in and day out trains as an outfield player, the way they move, the way they strike a ball, but also
their vision on the goalkeeper.
Exactly.
So they're going to see. So, like, I used to love when I'd get Mia Fischel, who's playing for Chelsea now. And because Mia had such a quick release on the ball that I couldn't mimic as a coach, and her timing and everything, that even if I had other attackers with me to put into a drill, they couldn't do. And so now you have a totally different vision, a totally different concept, that when you come up against another team that has a similar type of a player with a quick release, quick turn, you've seen it. And it's important to mix that up. And if you have the ability, I used to make kids bring their brother out or something. I was like, let's get an extra person out here if we can have it.
Yeah.
Or sister.
I think there's a time and a place for everything, Mike, like you were saying earlier, right? Like, depends on the age, depends on the level, depends on again, the why, what you want to accomplish. Yeah, there's some days where we may not get this dynamic, if you want to call it that. It might just be, hey, just serve across in.
Oh, absolutely. We used to, and when I played for New York, we used to end practice some days where it was just getting that timing. It was just like, we're just going to serve some crosses in. It's like a dance. Get your steps in, get your timing in, know when to go for the ball. There was no pressure. And it was just repetition.
Yeah.
You're making me think, too, Bushy, in regards to, like, I think a lot of coaches out there, when we talk about the foundational ages, and, obviously I was talking about, compartmentalization, earlier. I'm speaking about at the higher levels, at the foundational levels. It is important to compartmentalize and teach them step by step how to do specific actions. Right.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think, again, depending on the level, depending on the age, right? Something like this might not be beneficial to them, right? You might even just start them with a toss ball. We start a lot of our crossing days with just a toss ball, as he was saying earlier, just to get our footwork and our timing into it. Right now, I may add, hey, you're going to catch this one, you're going to punch this one, to now add the across the body boxing, or a two-handed straight forward, right? You can add that technical side into it, but I'm working on their footwork and just their timing into the jump before we get live, So again, it depends on the level you're dealing with, depends on what you're trying to get accomplished. My opinion, I think sometimes now, sometimes you see, almost too much going on.
Yeah.
Right. Almost too much going. We got to go here. We got to go there. We got to do this. We got to do that. No, like, your goalkeeper is not ready for that. They can't catch the ball.
Exactly.
Teach him or her how to catch the ball properly first, or dive, or whatever. Here I'm making Jamali or whoever's in goal find that little, whether it's a pass or even a roll, like the quick transition. Boom! I caught across. Can we get after him? So, going from out of possession to in possession, right? And just that thought process of, we want to play quick, we want to play fast.
I'll never forget, I tell that story about my first ID camp I ever did. And I came out and I had my little session and everything like that. And, it was a crossing and shooting session, because I only had them for a certain amount of time before they played like scrimmages for coaches to watch. And I'm like, oh my God, they can't catch the ball.
Yeah.
And I had to change my whole session on the fly, because I was like, I thought this was an ID camp, but I'm like, apparently not. And they can't catch the ball. Like, I have to actually totally go in reverse here, and realize, no, we have a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I mean that's a whole other topic right there in regards to like, how do you handle, coaching in an identification element, environment, because a lot of the times Bushy, an ID camp is identifying who can't play.
Well, I mean, I would say, first of all, parents, stop sending your kids to ID camps when they're not at the level to be in an ID camp, period. Just because you want them to be in front of a college coach there, and they have no business being there. Because in those situations, we only have a certain amount of time, and the whole point is to ID players. Instead, we're not there. I'm not there to break everything down and teach your kid how to catch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like send them to regular camp, and I'll do that, but that's a whole nother story.
Send them to camp shutout. Send them to camp shutout and learn how to be a goalkeeper. And then
apparently I'm never going to be asked to be a coach there. So your kid can't catch. Get him out of here.
I mean, look, yeah, but when you're talking about, spending money and everything like that as a parent out there, and this is just kind of a thing for parents out there, is like, where should you spend your money? Should you spend your money finding an outside coach in your area that can develop your young goalkeeper, or spend that same amount of money for them to go to the North Carolina ID camp where they're already expected to be at a certain level in order to be there? You just got to, you can't put the cart before the horse, right, Bushy?
No, but I think, some of it's, and I'm speaking for what I've seen here since I've been here almost a year now, like some of it's just lack of knowledge, lack of understanding.
Yeah, agreed.
What the level is.
Agreed. 100% agree.
Where it depends on, are you a big fish in a small pond? Or are you a small fish in a big pond? And they may not know. They just may not know what that level is.
Their kid is doing great on their club team and stuff, and they're this like really athletic, great little goalkeeper. Technically, they're not a good goal. They're not there.
Yeah,
and it's not understanding that you have to get there for. I mean, we've gone off tangent, but you have to get there because the amount of times I've seen goalkeepers put into those situations and quit and literally all of a sudden get an injury or something, but at the same time, like, just know that it's over their head.
Yes.
Yeah. So
they just don't know better. They just don't know better.
No, they don't.
No, I mean, and that's where parents' education comes into play, which is something that we're trying to help with.
Yes.
With everything moving forward. Bushy, I want to ask you though, with the limited time, and I appreciate you doing this because I know, you're still in the middle of the season, and well, not the middle. You're at the end of the season before the playoffs and stuff like that. So it's a busy time, but for any young coaches out there that are listening, what's the best way, in your opinion, to layer your sessions so they have all these different elements, but you're not still overcomplicating it?
I mean, a lot goes into it, right? And it's like being a player too. The more times you work on it, and the more training sessions you get and games you get, the things get easier. They get better. You can adjust on the fly. You can, oh, this worked today or this didn't work there. A lot goes into it. How much time do you have with them? How many sessions are you seeing them? Whether it's a club, a college. I was just having a chat the other day with a young college goalkeeper coach. And then Sashi speaks on that quite well. Of like, once you get in that season, you don't have a lot of training time. You're every 2 or 3 days, so it's just like, okay, we played, we recovered, now we're traveling. Oh, maybe you get one session in, then you're playing again.
You got 2 games a week.
Yeah, it's so all of that goes into it. But for me on a normal week, I have, if there's no open cups or anything like that, we've got a full week, right? So I've got thoughts and ideas of each day, what I want to accomplish. Start thinking about the night before, and then, I might doodle on the notepad at home when I get in first thing in the morning. Now I'm shaping it a little bit more. I take that out with me, but there's plenty of times when we're in there where I might tweak something on the fly because, maybe something's popped into my head. Maybe I've seen something from Jamali or Chris or Jonathan where I'm like, let me do it this way because I need to work on that footwork a little bit more, or I need to do this with them. And so it's an ongoing, always kind of tweaking it situation. And you know, but the more experience you have and the more practice you have at it, the easier that becomes. Again, just like a player with experience. But I always kind of have what I want to accomplish, especially earlier in the week, you know, whether I'm just bringing them back in for the first day or whether it's a workload day. Once we get to that end of the week, now I still know what I want to accomplish. But it'll also entail what we're going to see on that weekend a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And I like what you just said there, you know, too, Bushy, because, you know, it's not black or white. It is a gray, because it's always going to be changing, you know, and you're going to be making adjustments on the fly, even day of, during the activities, based on what you're seeing.
Yeah.
You know, if you're like, oh, this isn't working, or this isn't quite the picture that I was actually had in mind right there, you might be like, you know what, we're going to change this up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I think also, you know, field player coaches out there, just, this is for you. If something happens in a game on a weekend, like, you know, some weird goal or something like that, this isn't something we need to, as goalkeeper coaches, work on that week. You know, like if we see something consistent, and we consistently see somebody going too far near post when they shouldn't be, pulling them and being in the consistently wrong position and stuff like that, then that's something that we're going to say, okay, we have to implement in our prep and our training throughout the week for games, because this is something they're consistently doing wrong. You know, if the ball hits off the crossbar and them in the back of the head, it's nothing we have to train. You know, and you get that with coaches. Well, she let this goal in, you need to work on. I'm like, I don't need to work on that. You know, we don't need to. And I mean, you need to work on everything all the time, but you know what I'm saying. So
no, but you know, Bushy, you know, Susky just brought up a great point in regards to, like, first off, you know, don't develop your sessions around outliers, because you're never going to be able to replicate it. It's probably never going to happen again, type of thing. But second of all, is that I see a lot of young goalkeeper coaches out there, Bushy, who, and by young goalkeeper, I don't mean young in age. I mean younger as in less experienced goalkeeper coaches, who their sessions are focused on the most irregular goal scoring opportunities as opposed to the most regular goal scoring opportunities. So then they kind of need to flip flop that, right?
Mm-hmm. The meat and potatoes, right? The meat and potatoes.
Always, absolutely,
You know?
because that's what's getting the job done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it goes back to one of my, you know, things I said a little bit earlier. Like, sometimes I think, you know, people want to be so creative, right? And their session to look so good. And, you know, and sometimes it's, again, simplify it, right? You know, a lot of times I'll look at, you know, Manuel Neuer in Germany or Bayern Munich, right? If you ever watch their videos, they're very, very simple. You're lucky if there's cones anywhere, you know, and it's just simple goalkeeping movements, right? And again, I'm not saying that's 100% right or wrong, but, you know, there's a time and a place for everything. You know, some people may look at my whole session and say, well, he always starts with kind of just some sort of movement to get him going at the beginning. You know, I'm very fortunate. Bob gives us plenty of time. I've never really felt this whole entire season like, okay, we got to kind of get through it because he needs them in 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
I have that luxury. I know it's at least going to be 30 minutes, you know, but I have, as you were talking earlier, how do you layer it? You know, there's some sort of just movement activation always to start them. Whether it's in cones, whether it's, you know, ladders or whatever, just, you know, you're warming up the car, right? You're warming the car up. And then we get into the handling and things like that. And sometimes it might be tennis balls. Sometimes it might be, you know, different things like that. And then we continue to raise the tempo. So that's the way I kind of like to layer it in the phases. And then by the end, whatever we're doing, we're live, you know, whether it's crosses or as live as we can get within our little world, you know, shots or movement or 1v1s or some sort of combination.
Yeah, and I think,
coaches out there, if you find, because we've all been there, if you find that you have that coach that doesn't give you that time, that it's like, hey, I need the goalkeepers in 10 minutes, or the team's gonna, they're doing their team warm up or whatever, and then I need the goalkeepers 15 minutes later. Well, you need to be able to incorporate. You need to be able to, number one, take the keepers and work in their warm up with the activation and stuff to use that time to the best of your advantage. Like, if you don't have a lot of time with your keepers, how do I make the most of the time? Don't let them jog up and back and skip with their team. Bring them in and have them do activation and have them do handling within their warm up, so you can find more time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of time for time constraint purposes, we're going to move on to some of these breakdowns of these actions right here, showing how the picture all kind of comes together. And Bushy, I love the fact that, thank you for sharing all the practice content that you've got, all the session content you've got, because I think it really gives a better context to when we're seeing the match actions and going like, oh, now we see how the whole picture, kind of comes together. And I think this is your last match. I think what against San Antonio, is that who you guys just recently played?
Is this past weekend?
I think so. So yeah. So it's kind of like a squared ball played across right here, and Jamali comes out, but he holds position. He doesn't like try to chase space right there, because he recognizes based on that touch that there's no way he's going to be able to steal ground right there. He holds position, and then it's very simple. It looks simple to the layman, but that's not an easy save to make.
Yeah, so this is Tulsa, 2 weeks ago. And this is something I've been working with, not just Jamali, but all three of them with, if you can get in their face, right? Obviously get in their face, and goalkeepers today love the spread, Jamali's quite good at spreading and also getting in long barriers. But a lot of the times if we get caught in between. And so we spent a lot of work with Jamali of get high. But if you can't get in his face, I don't want you getting caught just running at him, where all he has to do is just play it around you. So if you can't close it and get in his face and either smother it or long barrier or that, you got to get your feet set, because he is so quick with his reactions. If he's set and balanced, more times than not, whether it hits him or he's able to make a reaction save. And this is just, it looks simple, but he's staying balanced. I can't get on top of him. I'm going to hold my ground. Right. And the shooter ends up, putting it into his body.
Yeah. And how many times, and we're totally on the same page, and we know that, how many times we see those goalkeepers that the decision here is to come and to go. And that's what he's waiting for. If you come and you attack him in here, if you go down, if you try to spread, if you do anything, the ball's by you. Yeah. So get yourself set, make yourself big, realize that you're right, Mike, the touch is too tight for you to move. He's waiting for you. He wants you to give him the answer. Go ahead, come, because I'm going to slide it by you. Or I'm, and you don't. And now he's got nowhere to go. He's got pressure on him and he's got nowhere to go. You're big, you're set, and you have your reaction, and you're going to make the save.
Yeah. I think one of the problems with this, Bushy, especially the developmental ages for young goalkeepers, and it is, again, we always talk about, young goalkeepers taking things literally. It's like, well, but coach told me I'm supposed to get big. I'm supposed to get big. I'm supposed to cut, I'm supposed to make the goal as small as possible type of a thing.
No, I think what you see nowadays from 5 yards away is somebody's going to do a spread. They're going to go down and do a spread from 5 yards away. Like, what is that getting you? Like, basically, you're hoping he hits you.
It goes back to the why, right?
Exactly.
Why is Jamali, and both of you said it a few minutes ago, because the forward's touch is so tight, Jamali can't come for that ball. He can't, because that touch is bam, and if Jamali comes, he's just passing it around him. Where if he does take a longer touch, Jamali's going to be on top of it, whether he's going down in a long barrier, whether he's standing up, whatever. But
smother,
the why is because of this touch, right? Oh, it's a good touch. It's right down. He can hit that right now. Jamali's got to hold, because the distance is too big, even though it's, only 4, 5, 6 yards. It's too big. Jamali will get caught in between, and now it's probably through.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a great point right there. I want to move on to this next clip right over here. After this guy, Rise and Round in Pain, right over there. That's what the guy did that after he bruised my ribs on last Thursday.
Your ribs hurt him.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, dude, he smashed, and I mean, he barreled me. I was like, why am I still doing this? It was one of those moments, Susk, where I was like, man, maybe Saskia is right. Maybe I should stop doing this.
As long as you still love it and you're okay, Mike, it's fine.
Well, the funniest thing is, like, as people are like, they're like, oh, well, you're playing over 30s. I was like, no, open league. They're like, what are you doing out there? That's stupid. I was like, oh, you might be right about that. So anyway, so this ball, there's this obstructed view right here. And Jamali holds post near post right here. And it looks like it takes a little bit of a deflection, but because he's holding that position nice and tight with the near post right there, he doesn't really have to do anything. He just can kind of just cover the space, go down and play it into a safe area.
Yeah. No, it's simple. It's him being patient. I always, when we talk about these situations, I want you to find a way to see the ball, right? Whether it's just leaning, whether you have to slightly move, right? But most importantly, again, because his reactions are so fast, I want him set. I want his feet set, light, and he's ready to go because he has quick reactions. I don't want him getting caught moving, whether it's up, back, left, or right. I want him to be balanced.
But what I like is to everybody that's watching this, not just listening to it, is when you do watch it, is go back to the session with, the resistance and now overlay it into the positioning, into the saves, into everything. And you'll see that it's identical. You'll see the high ball with the touch. You'll see the distance coming off. Now put in your head the resistance bands around and everything. So you could see how it correlates into real game.
It's almost as is why I wanted to choose these clips. No, I'm totally.
Oh yeah, it's all about.
Totally.
You're so smart, Mike.
I know. Do you guys? I know. We're going over an hour right here. Do you guys have time for a couple more clips, or?
Yeah, I don't have anything to do but go home and eat dinner.
Okay, I should probably eat lunch because I've been very loopy during this entire. Should never not eat lunch before doing the podcast. That's for sure. Okay, so now here's a dribble. The guy's down on the ground here. We got all sorts of.
I'm not sure why he's crab walking right now at the top of the.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, but again, Jamali kind of recognizes that that the guy is down on the ground on pressure right there. Again, there's nothing you can do right here other than stay. But look at what we were talking about, hitting those volleys high, right? Because this is that lifted ball right into that danger zone, that red zone right above the shoulders right there. And Jamali just stays nice and tight on it. And just like you were talking about, Bushy, don't dive, but just guide it.
Yeah.
And let your momentum take you.
Again, your body's going to go with it eventually. But how many times have we seen a goalkeeper, they start arcing, they start bending, and they actually make themselves smaller, right? It's about making the save first with your upper body. And then because of
everything
the momentum,
follows.
Everything will follow it, But what I like here, again, he said early, he stepped out. He's not too high. The guy's hitting it for roughly 18. But we want him challenging these angles because if he's deeper, maybe this gives him more trouble. But again, it's a good save, but you're not sitting there going, oh my gosh, it's an unbelievable save. This is a comfortable save for me and for him, and it's covered. But the simplicity of it, again, going back to the meat and potatoes side of it, the simplicity of it is what I like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that, and I think one of the things here, as I'm wanted to kind of just show this last clip right here, because we were talking about those band resistance work here, and what I like about those band resistance works is it's teaching your body to be able to adjust, deal with resistance one direction, and then be able to kind of push the other way, as opposed to being overly dependent on one area. Because now he's got to make that recovery movement to get across to make this save right there. Again, looks easy to the untrained eye, but that's not easy to do based on how that ball was.
That was actually in Orange County. That changed the game for us, even though we ended up losing it. But we were under the pressure quite a bit early, and that was just before halftime. And that's just an instinctive reaction save. That he has in him, but it's one that can change a game.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you need from your number one. You know, you need the meat and potatoes 85, 95% of the time. And every now and again, you need that one
They
special.
gotta come up big.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, well, Bushy, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you sharing all that stuff. I want to get those bands and just go out there and play with those bands today myself personally. Feel like it'd be useful for my men's league game tomorrow night. If I don't,
immense.
Yeah, it would change everything for you immediately.
Oh my gosh. No, I really appreciate you taking the time. Also, want to say a quick thing over here. We are just about to announce our first group of mentors for the Union goalkeeping, and one of them is going to be Jon Busch, Pittsburgh Riverhounds goalkeeper coach, who you may or may not be familiar with. He may or may be here right now. With us right now. So we're very, very excited for that. And Bushy, why don't you just talk a little bit about why you want to kind of give back to kind of that next generation?
Well, all of us have had mentors throughout our life, on and off the field, and for me, there's quite a few special people, that helped me get to where I got to as a player and are continuing to help me get to where I want to go as a coach now. And, they did it for me, and it's my turn to kind of give back to this next generation and share my knowledge, what I know on the field, but also off the field, and how to deal with certain things and the ups and the downs of life and the ups and the downs on the field, because, Mike, you know my story over my 21-year career. Like, yeah, there were a lot of highs, but there were also a lot of lows, and dealing with 3 major knee injuries, being traded, being cut, all that stuff. And life's the same thing. You have ups and downs in life, and it's how you dust yourself off and get back up. But I wouldn't have been able to do it, whether it's on the field or off the field, if I did not have certain people in my life to help pick me up when things really got tough. And so, it's my turn to try to help the next generation in those situations.
I mean, we're absolutely honored that you're willing to come on board, and guys, we will be setting up those office hours. We'll talk to Bushy about when he's available, and also for different scheduling of different types of programs. They are in season right now. They hopefully will be making a very long playoff run. So sit tight, because we want to make sure that these hours work, and they're going to be beneficial to everybody out there. But, somebody like yourself is just going to be such a valuable resource. And, we're very, 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 very excited about it, man. Very, very excited about it. I think it's going to be great. And obviously, if you want to also get some mentorship from Saskia Weber, you're also going to be able to do that too, because she's also going to be on the platform as a mentor. And I guess me as well. And there'll be a bunch of other people too, doing stuff. Bushy, if people want to connect with you, I believe you already got your Union handle up and running. I think it's just Jon Busch, from what I'm looking at right over here. Yep. Yeah, it's Jon.Busch. Got to put that dot in there. So it's Jon.
Put a dot in there at some point. I don't know.
Hey, you can always edit it if you want. Obviously, guys, if you want to reach out to us with a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, at Goalkeeper Podcast on the Union, or contact at insidethe18media.com, by email. If you want to reach out to Saskia, it's at Saskia on the Union, or myself at Goalkeeper Podcast. Shout out to Stan Anderson, who put in an emoji in this podcast that I didn't understand. It was just a car emoji. So I didn't know if that meant that he was driving in the car while watching this, while listening to this. Hopefully listening to this.
Used car salesman.
Oh, used car salesman.
Yeah. That was his way of acknowledging what I said about him.
Okay. Now that makes perfect sense. Well, guys, I am going to make some steak salad. That is all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.
Bye, guys.